When I woke up that Halloween morning, something instantly felt wrong. Pain, deep down below. A dull, hollow ache throbbing between my legs. My sheets and underwear were soaked in blood. I thought I had started my period. I wish that had been the case. What had actually happened was much worse. I lifted myself up, my eyes following the thick trail of blood from my bed to the door. That fucking bitch. My fingers slowly reached down to check, but I already knew. She was gone. Emptiness. Just a bloody, gaping hole where she was supposed to be. She'd finally done it. Ladeous had escaped. But it didn't start there. Not really. If I'm being honest, it began a long time ago. I was around 12 or 13 for the first time I noticed it, but back then I thought it was normal. I didn't know any better. It was a hunger, but it wasn't for food, and it wasn't coming from my stomach. It was coming from Ladeous. At least that's what I called it, her, at the time. I don't know where the name came from exactly. I guess it was because my mum used to call it my lady parts. She said all the other words for it were ugly and that it deserved to be called something prettier. But I thought it was hideous. The first time I actually looked down there, I was disgusted. Maybe I mashed that up together in my head to make a new word. Either way, that became her name. Ladeous. Eventually, we learned to get along, she and I. She'd get what she wanted, then she'd keep quiet for a while. It was a compromise, an understanding we had with one another. As long as she stayed happy, we were good. But she had to come first. Always. The real problems only started when that didn't happen. I slowly swung my trembling legs over the side of the bed. The bottoms of my bare feet were met with the shock of a cold, sticky puddle of my own blood. There were thick splatters of it on the walls and on the side of the bed. Christ, even my brand new fucking rug! She'd gotten it everywhere. Not only that, I had a bigger problem. Well, two, actually. The first was getting myself cleaned up and figuring out how to cover my hole. The other was finding out where the hell Ladeous had crawled off to. I had a feeling I knew what she was after. I mean, it was obvious what she wanted, what she craved. But as far as who? Well, that was going to be a little harder to narrow down. You see, ever since high school, I've been what you might call a little promiscuous. That's the pretty way of saying it, at least. Ladeous was the one to blame for it, really. Her increasingly insatiable hunger was the driving force behind most of my actions. I controlled the body, sure, but she was the one who called the shots. That is, until I cut off her supply almost a month ago. Shit. I just never thought she'd actually find a way to break free. I sat at the edge of my bed for a few moments in shock, trying to wish it away, praying to wake up from this nightmare. That's when I noticed it. The huge pile of blood my feet had landed in wasn't bright red like what was on my sheets. And the smell, it was old blood. Thick, clumpy, so dark at the edges it was almost black. Large clots lay jellied into its coagulated surface like strawberry chunks in a jar of preserves. That whore had been saving it up. I squeezed my legs together and shuffled myself to the bathroom, trying not to make this putrid crimson disaster worse by dripping any more out. Ladeous must have done some kind of ritualistic type shit to be able to escape without it waking me up. Or killing me. Had to be. And yeah, it hurt, but not as bad as you'd think. Way worse than normal period cramps, but probably not as bad as labour, I guess. With the help of some pain meds, I could take it. But I still lost quite a bit of blood from her tearing herself away from my flesh. My heart was pounding and I was starting to feel woozy. I popped a few Tylenols to take the edge off and got on with it. Honestly, at the time, my adrenaline was through the roof. I was more worried about getting it covered so nothing else could fall out. In a weird way, though, I also felt the tiniest sense of relief that she was gone. Like, maybe I should just let her go. Life would sure as hell be a lot easier for me without her around. But no. I couldn't let her loose on the world like that. I wasn't evil. Not like her. I opened my medicine cabinet, pulled out a pad and a roll of gauze, and started wrapping myself up. Blood soaked through instantly. Fuck, of course. I wasn't thinking clearly. I needed a better barrier. Pad wasn't good enough on its own. Tampon would just fall right out. That's when I got an idea. I ran over to the tub and grabbed my loofah. Then I wrapped it up with a bunch of gauze, held my breath, and shoved it up inside my hole. I winced, my eyes flooding with tears as the coarse, dry surface of the gauze scraped across my insides. But it fit. More importantly, it stayed. And once it started soaking up the blood, it felt weird, but ignorable. For the most part, anyway. Next, I covered the hole with a pad and wrapped myself up like a mummy again. Seemed to be working, but I put down another one in my underwear just to be safe. That would just have to do for now. I quickly cleaned the blood off my legs and feet, then grabbed the bleach and a few towels to get started on the mess. Oh, I was going to have to throw that rug away. First, I hobbled back over to the nightstand to check my phone. When the screen lit up, my heart dropped. 7 missed calls, all from around 3 a.m. and all from one person. Lance. Shit. That's where she went. I should have known. The phone calls must have gotten her all riled up, and he was the last guy I was with. The scent must have been fresh enough for her to follow. I still wasn't sure how exactly she'd managed to pull off this escape, but at least now I knew her plans. I just hoped I could get to her before she did anything crazy. I tried calling him back, but he didn't answer. That didn't necessarily mean anything though. He'd usually ignore me if I ever tried to contact him before the sun went down. It was a Saturday, so probably still at work. Probably still sleeping, hopefully. I just have to drive over and show up at his house. Lance was a mistake, like so many of them turned out to be. I figured out pretty quickly that he only called me when he wanted to fuck. I mean, I wasn't looking for something super serious, but dinner would have been nice. Ladeous never let that stop her from taking the call, though. He became addicted to her pretty quickly. It was like she was all he ever thought about, all he cared about. It wasn't long before it pushed me over the edge, and I'll admit, I was jealous once again. I just couldn't understand why he preferred that ugly bitch over me. So, for the last few weeks, I had started turning my phone on silent at night. which pissed her off. Except last night, I got drunk and forgot. I left the bloody mess and threw on a pair of sweatpants and a hoodie. Then I grabbed my keys, shoved my feet into the first pair of shoes I could find and bolted out the front door. The sky sat at the edge of dawn with a pink glow and an eerie silence blanketed the sleepy town. A jarring contrast to the chaos and panic that was happening inside my head. I'd only been to his house a few times. It took me a little while to remember which street it was. It all looked a little different in the daylight. When I spotted his car parked outside one of the houses, I pulled into the driveway behind it. The house looked quiet. His roommates were all gone. I banged on the door a second, then waited, but no answer. So I went over the back of the house to knock on his bedroom window. As soon as I turned the corner, something stopped me dead in my tracks. The window was shattered. Beneath it, a bloody pile of glass shards lay scattered atop the grass and dead leaves. My throat tightened. I didn't want to look. I was terrified to see what Ladeous had done. At the very least, she had just embarrassed the fuck out of me. But what if she had done something worse? What if she were in one of her moods? I had to look. She could still be in there, and I needed to stop her. I slowly stepped forward, my heart pounding as the glass crushed beneath my shoes. The windowsill was covered in blood. Fuck. Looked like it already dried by then, too. Still, I needed to check. I lifted myself up onto my tippy toes and slowly peeked inside. I wish I hadn't. No. Fucking no. It was a massacre. The walls of his bedroom were all splattered with red. The thick stench of death and rotten blood poured out from the hole in the window. My hand shot up to cover my mouth. Ladeous hadn't been there for a good time. She was on a rampage. My eyes suddenly focused on the center of the room. Lance was lying in his bed, bloodied from head to toe, covered in tiny, jagged bite marks. His eyes were fixed wide open, glazed over in a lifeless, milky blue. The look of pure terror burned into his face forever. And his dick was gone. All at once, the blood drained from my face. Dark spots began to creep into my vision. I slowly backed away, trying to catch my breath. The look in his eyes, the blood, it was horrific. I couldn't look at it anymore. I felt sick. I didn't even call the cops. I just fucking bailed. Shitty, I know, but Lance was beyond help, and the situation really didn't look good for me, like, at all. So I turned and ran back to my car as fast as I could, then hauled my ass down the street. I only made it to the stop sign before I had to open my door and lean my head out to puke. God, I couldn't believe what she had actually done. Never in a million years did I think Ladeous would ever go that far. I mean, yeah, she could be a little frisky sometimes, but she'd never killed a guy before. And something deep down inside me told me that she wasn't finished either. She'd finally gotten a real taste for it, and now she was after more. I wiped my face, then pulled out my phone and started scrolling back through my texts. Who was before Lance? Oh yeah, fuck. That widow. Garrett. The needy one. No matter how much I gave and gave, he always wanted more. Dude texted me constantly. If I didn't answer, he'd freak out. It felt like he was trying to consume my entire life. And speaking of, he couldn't keep his face away from Ladeous either. Took forever to peel him off me. And her. I really didn't want to have to call him. Maybe I'd just drive towards his house and see if there were any trace of her along the way. At that point, I was pretty sure she had been gone for at least 4 hours, if not longer. How much damage could she have possibly done in that amount of time? Yeah, she had a pretty good head start, but still, there was no way she could be moving that fast on foot. Like crawling. Ugh, gross. She was going to be absolutely filthy when I found her. I just knew it. I sped through the neighbourhoods, keeping my eyes peeled along the way. With all the Halloween decorations around, it was going to make it a lot harder to spot her. Too many places she could be hiding. Ignoring the pain and overwhelming nausea I was feeling, I focused all my attention on the mission at hand. My pulse raced faster and faster the closer I got to his neighbourhood. Yet, I was almost there and still no sign of her. I did see a dead rat in one of the yards, though. Someone's cat probably killed it. Hopefully not mine. As soon as I turned down the street, my heart stopped. Blue lights, yellow tape. His house was surrounded. The coroner's van was parked out front, and 2 men were wheeling out a body in a black bag on a stretcher. Garrett's body. I was too late. Again. I slowed my car to a crawl and pulled up alongside some neighbours who were outside watching, then rolled my window down. Hey, what's going on? What happened? Most of them looked like they were too in shock to answer. But finally, one man stepped forward and said,
One of the guys who lived there was murdered.
A woman, whom I assumed to be his wife, interjected from the sidewalk.
You don't know that, Joseph.
He turned and shushed her.
Shh.
Then approached closer to my car. How? I mean, do you know what happened? The man shrugged.
All I know is what I heard his roommate tell the cops. Said the back window was smashed, and something about the poor guy looked like he had choked to death on blood.
I scrunched my eyebrows, trying to hide my internal revelation. Then, he leaned in closer and lowered his voice.
Between me and you, weird thing is, the roommate said they didn't think it was his blood. Didn't look right.
Fuck. So that's what she'd been saving it up for. Jesus fucking Christ. What was I going to do? That blood was my blood. My DNA. And it was all over Lance's room too. I was screwed. That bitch was going to get me thrown in prison. I threw the car in reverse and backed up from the scene, heart pounding. I needed to regroup, formulate plan. And take some more Tylenol too. I just needed time to think. I was too afraid to go back home though. If the cops were already looking for me, that would be the first place they'd go. No. I needed to be smart about this. I drove to the drugstore downtown, brought some water and the cheapest bottle of off-brand ibuprofen I could find. Then I went back to my car, started scrolling to find out who the fuck she was going to go after next. When I saw the name, my heart sank. Derek. Oh shit. I really liked him. He was a genuinely good guy. One of the few who actually treated me right. He was kind and thoughtful, generous. We almost never argued, but in a bitch move, I broke up with him for Garrett, of all people. And Derek hadn't even done anything wrong. I just gotten a little bored, and to be honest, I liked all the attention I was getting from someone new. Biggest mistake ever. I hit call and held my breath.
Hello?
Oh, thank fucking God.
Olivia? Is that you?
Yeah, it's me. Where are you?
At home? Why? What's wrong?
Derek, please just tell me you're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. What's going on, Liv?
I can't explain right now. You wouldn't believe me anyway. Just stay there, I'm coming. And keep away from the windows. I hung up before he could ask any more questions. Shit. He probably thought it was some crazy half-arsed excuse I come up with just to go and see him. Oh well. At least he was safe for the time being. All I had to do was make it over there before Ladeous did. The 10-minute drive from the drugstore to his house only took 5 minutes. The streets were getting busier though, and the stupid Halloween carnival was already setting up. There was only so long she could keep scurrying around without being seen by anyone. And God help me if she came across a stray dog. I pulled into Derek's driveway and tried to compose myself before going inside. All I'd have to do was hang around there long enough to catch Ladeous before she could do any more damage. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with her once I got her back, but that didn't matter at the time. As my trembling fingers struggled to unscrew the cap off the bottle of water, an urgent news report interrupted the Smashing Pumpkins song that was playing on the radio. I froze. The announcer's unrelenting words pulsed through my ears, almost choking me.
A man from a very prominent and wealthy family had been discovered brutally murdered this morning. His body was found drenched in blood, and both his hands had been severed and were missing from the scene.
I didn't even need to hear the name. I already knew. Grant. At that point, it became obvious. Ladeous was working her way backwards, yes, but not through all my past lovers. Only those who'd committed transgressions against me. Derek, in all his goodness, had been spared. She wasn't on a blood-fueled, blind rampage. It was calculated, targeted. She was taking it upon herself to right the wrongs that had been done to me, to us. She was punishing them for their sins and ruining my life in the process. Grant, in contrast, was a spoiled little rich boy. The most entitled motherfucker you'd ever meet. The type who wanted what was his and everything that was yours too. He got all he'd asked for in life, but was still never satisfied. And stingy too. Ugh. It didn't last long though. I broke it off after a huge fight one night about him not leaving a tip at a restaurant. I mean, not that he deserved it, but I did find it a little funny that it was his hands that were ripped from him. For a moment, I looked up at the house in front of me, contemplating going inside to ask Derek for help. But realistically, what could he do? I didn't want to drag him into this. Ladeous was my problem. No one knew her like I did. Besides, I couldn't bring myself to actually tell anyone what was going on, either. And shit, the weird phone call was enough. I didn't need to freak him out any more than I already had. At least now I had something more to go on. I scrolled back further in my text to pop some more painkillers, then back out of the driveway. I knew who was next. Seth, the stoner. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't good either. In fact, it seemed like he felt nothing for me at all, which only made me and Ladeous want him more. Even though he was a loser with zero ambition, there was something about him that kept me chasing after his affection. The allure of the unrequited. He finally broke my heart for the last time when he missed my college graduation because he forgot. He still lived in the basement of his parents' house, and I could already see from the end of the road that their cars weren't there. I turned into his driveway and gulped down hard. When I shut off my engine and opened the car door, I could hear it. A guttural, piercing, awful noise. He was screaming. I bolted into the house and down the basement stairs. About halfway down, I slipped on a puddle of blood and tumbled the rest of the way, head first. I landed in more blood. Dark, thick, rotten. And then I looked up. Seth was flailing around, desperately clawing at something on the back of his head. No, not something. Her.
Ladeous!
I shrieked.
Get the fuck off of him!
But it was too late. Amidst his cries of agony, I could hear sloshing and crunching. Then a snap. His pupils widened as he stared at me in horror. She chewed through his neck and severed his spinal cord. His body twitched once, then went stiff, and he hit the ground with a thud.
You fucking bitch!
My heart was pounding out of my chest. Seth wasn't dead. He was paralysed, trapped in a perpetual state of inaction. His chest continued to rise and fall in rapid succession as Ladeous quickly scurried across the floor away from his body. I lay there in shock for a few seconds, face to face with the gurgling, motionless body of my ex, before reality slammed back into me. I scrambled up to my feet and shot after her, but by then, she'd already made it out of the broken basement window. She was moving a lot quicker than I anticipated, too. I didn't have time to try and help Seth. Besides, one of the neighbours had surely been awake to hear his screams and called the cops. They'd probably be showing up at any minute now. I had to go. I lifted myself up and poked my head out of the broken window. Ladeous was already almost at the end of the road.
Jesus Christ!
I climbed out, wincing as the jagged shards of grass that remained sliced through my clothes, cutting up my arms and legs. She was heading right toward a truck stopped at the stop sign. My body went cold, and my legs almost gave out from underneath me. The driver wouldn't be able to see her. She was about to be turned into roadkill right in front of me. I started running faster, screaming.
Stop! Wait! No!
But the windows were up. They couldn't hear me. I watched, breath held, as the truck slowly began to roll forward with Ladeous crawling directly into its path. I wanted to shut my eyes, but I couldn't. The tyres inched closer and closer to her as the truck began to gain speed. My heart stopped. Then, just as she was about to be smashed, she leapt into the air. I couldn't believe it. That bitch actually jumped up and into the wheel well. I looked on in shock as she suctioned herself to the surface of it, hitching a ride to her next stop. And then I hear the sirens wailing in the distance. I took off back to my car and barreled down the street, trying to catch up with the truck. Once I had it back in my sights, I followed closely as I scrolled to find the next victim. Warren. The first and last son of a bitch to ever raise a hand to me. An idiot gym bro with an explosive temper who didn't like to be told he was wrong. Complete and utter man-child. I don't think I have to explain why things didn't work out between us, or why I wasn't exactly devastated about who Ladeous' next target was. The truck began heading toward the downtown area where the Halloween carnival was about to begin. Warren had worked security for it the year before. He was always looking for an excuse to rough someone up. My bet was that he'd be there, and I was right. The brakes of the truck squealed as it came to a stop near the edge of the carnival entrance, only a few yards away from the security tent. I pulled my car over the side of the road and watched as Ladeous slid out from her hidden stowaway compartment. The place was beginning to get crowded, but somehow no one seemed to notice her, and she slithered past their feet toward the tent. I got out of my car and slowly walked toward the entrance. I had to act natural. I couldn't risk causing a panic by running. I'd end up getting her trampled. I could already hear Warren's loud mouth booming from inside the tent. Just the sound of it ignited a rage within me, but I had to focus. Ladeous was still a few feet ahead of me and gaining speed. If I walked just a little faster though, I could catch up and quickly grab her without making a scene. But then, just as she approached the tent, something came over me. I just stopped. I stood in the middle of the crowd, watched her crawl inside, and waited for the screams. A large red splatter hit the inside of the tent, seeping through the white canvas instantly. Then they came. Blood-curdling, guttural, and deafening. The crowd panicked. Everyone began to run, all scrambling in different directions. Except for me. This time, I wanted to see what she had done. Slowly, I approached the entrance to the tent. The sounds of sloshing and the gnashing of her wet teeth were still audible over the cries of terror that surrounded me. When I looked inside, Warren was on the ground with Ladeous on top of his stomach, ripping away at the flesh like a rabid dog. His hands clawed at her, struggling to pull her from his body, but she was embedded. The putrid stench of rotten blood was overpowering as she released her vengeance into him. Then I heard the loud pop of his ribcage and the force open. His screams intensified, but his arms now lay dead at his sides as she began to eviscerate him. This was my chance to grab her, to sneak up while she was preoccupied. My eyes darted around the room for something I could use. There were extra security t-shirts sitting on a table to the left of me. I quickly reached over, grabbed one, and flung it on top of Ladeous. She slid off Warren's body and started to panic, so I leaped over and tried to pounce on top of her. I landed just shy, reached out, but grabbed only the shirt as she scuttled away from beneath it, leaving a trail of dark red slime beneath her. That bitch was mocking me. I swore I heard her laugh as she slid under the tent wall. With all the madness going on, I was able to slip out unnoticed and run back to my car. I waited for a few minutes, hoping to see her. With everyone scrambling around though, it made it impossible. So I left. Besides, Ladeous seemed capable enough to avoid being stopped on. I just have to catch up to her later. At that point, I needed to park my car somewhere and ditch it. I'd already been seen at 2 crime scenes that I knew of, maybe more, and it would only be a matter of time before the police figured out whose blood was all over each and every one of them. I already knew her next destination, so I drove to a small grocery store about 5 minutes away from it. A strange looking place, sort of run down. I'd never been inside, but I figured my car should be fine to leave there. Not like I had a whole lot of other options anyway. With the pain starting to creep back into my consciousness, I popped some more ibuprofen into my mouth and shot it back with the last swig of water left in the bottle. I took one last look at myself in the mirror and got out of the car, slamming the door behind me. Being on foot was going to slow me down significantly. I knew that, but to be honest, a part of me wasn't as worried about stopping her anymore, and that wasn't just because I knew who was next. The truth was, more than anything, I just wanted to get her back. I flipped up the hood of my jacket, forced in a deep breath of crisp autumn air, then started walking to the house of the next man on her list. Evan. A total and complete douchebag. A human being so overcome with jealousy that it tainted every molecule in his body. Being with him was a nightmare. Another guy couldn't even look at me without him freaking out. And it didn't stop there. Evan was even jealous of me. Every small accomplishment I had was undercut by some snide remark. Any attention I received should have been given to him. Obsessive, controlling, manipulative. I think I hated him even more than Warren. Evan left the kind of scars you can't see, and the worst part of it all, he was my first, the guy I'd chosen to give my virginity to. Someone hateful and selfish. A piece of shit. And it was something I could never get back, never forget. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't scrub that stain from my heart. My feet carried me down that familiar road without even a glance upward. The thoughts racing through my mind kept me in a trance. By the time I raised my head again, I was standing at the edge of his driveway. The air suddenly felt thick, suffocating, It settled in my lungs like molasses. She was close by. I could feel it. I hesitated by the door, wondering if I should knock, if I should warn him, if he truly deserved to be spared her wrath. I lifted my fist, but right before it met the surface of the wood, I heard something. Glass shattering, and then the wild scream of a man in shock. I bolted around toward the back of the house, panting hard as the cold wind rushed against my face. A sticky trail of crimson ran from the neighbour's backyard to the broken window of Evan's bedroom.
Ladeous!
I yelled, but I couldn't get in that way. The window was too high. There was nothing to climb on. I ran back to the front of the house and tried to go in, but the door was locked. Then I remembered. The spare key. I lifted up the welcome mat, grabbed it from underneath, and rushed inside. He'd managed to make it into the kitchen by then, but she was right at his heels. When she reached the counter, his hand shot out and grabbed a knife from the block. I screamed.
No!
He looked over at me and froze with the blade in his hand.
Olivia?
Just then, Ladeous launched herself at his face. She slammed into him with such force that he was thrown backward onto the floor, hitting his head on the edge of the counter as he went down. The knife flew from his hand. Blood splattered across the white cabinets. The blow didn't knock him unconscious, though. He wasn't shown that mercy. I was in awe of her power, her fury, and in a moment of pure clarity, I remembered the truth. She wasn't trying to ruin my life. She was doing this for me, doing what I couldn't, scrubbing the stains of my heart so that we could start fresh again, together. If I just gave her this last one, then maybe she'd be satisfied. Maybe then she'd finally come back to me. And so I let her. I watched on in reverence as Ladeous forced her way down into his throat, stifling his screams of horror. His chest rippled as she worked her way deeper and deeper until she found what she was looking for. His body began to convulse, and then that familiar cracking and crunching and sloshing. She was hollowing him out from the inside. I inched closer to him. His flesh began to rip open, slowly at first, and then all at once. An explosion of blood splattered across my face as Ladeous emerged from his body with his still beating heart clutched firmly between her jaws. I swallowed hard, wiped my face, then crouched down low to get closer to her.
Ladeous, please, come.
She just kept gnawing at it, tearing off huge chunks and swallowing them whole. I reached out to touch her, but she pulled away and growled.
Ladeous, I'm sorry. Please,
I begged.
please come back. I need you.
But she ignored me. Tears began to flood my eyes. I had taken her for granted. Despite her flaws, she was a part of me. But she was also her own entity. She deserved respect. To be heard, to be understood. So I did what she wanted. I turned around and walked away. I let her finish this last kill and hoped that after, she'd be ready to come back home to me. I walked the streets until the sun began to set. I didn't know where to go or what to do. I felt lost and scared and so very empty. My entire body was throbbing with pain, and I was pretty sure my makeshift tampon had been leaking too, but at least I was wearing black sweatpants. And luckily it was Halloween, so the rest of the blood and cuts all over me didn't throw up any alarms either. Suddenly, I felt a vibration coming from my hoodie pocket. I pulled out my phone. It was a text from my best friend, Catherine. She was inviting me to a Halloween house party since the carnival had been cancelled. I wiped my eyes and sent back, "Where?" I wasn't exactly in a partying mood, but it wouldn't take long to walk there from where I was. At the very least, it was somewhere I could hide for a while. But really, the truth was, I just didn't want to be alone anymore. When I walked up to the address she sent me, the place looked dark and dingy, almost abandoned. It was an old Victorian-style house with all the lights cut off and a red strobe light going off inside. An old jack-o'-lantern sat rotting on the front porch, like it had somehow been there for years. I stepped over a few crushed-up beer cans and went in. The blaring music drowned out my thoughts instantly. It was packed with people, all in costume. Trying to find Catherine in that sea of chaos wasn't something I had the energy for in that moment. I sent her a text, then plopped down in the first unoccupied seat I could find, the love seat in front of the living room window. I sat there in a daze, watching as the people around me danced, drank and made out. Everyone was so happy, so carefree. I wondered if that would ever be me again. If she would come back, or if I'd end up spending the rest of my life in prison for what she'd done. Just when I felt like I was about to break down, I felt the weight shift beside me. I looked over to see that a very attractive guy had sat down next to me. He was smiling, extending an unopened beer my way. I took it from his hand and smiled back.
Hi, I'm Olivia.
I said, tucking my hair behind my ears.
I know!
He yelled over the speakers. I was confused. I could have sworn I'd never seen this guy before.
What?
Don't you remember me? It's Preston. From middle school.
And all at once, I did. He looked a lot different as an adult, but it was him. My first boyfriend from 6th grade. The one who'd awoken Ladeous. The one that started it all. And the one who had too much pride to admit to his friends that he was dating the weird emo girl in school, so he ditched her at the homecoming dance and made her sit alone. The smile began to slowly fade from my face. I clenched my teeth and squeezed my hand tighter around the bottle of beer. And then I heard the sound of glass shattering behind me.